Today is August 2nd, 2009. I'm Ken Schoen with Jane Trigere of the Jewish Historical Society of Western Massachusetts. We have the pleasure of being with Sarah Grodsky at Glen Meadow Retirement Home in Longmeadow, Massachusetts. So, Sarah, tell us what you remember about your childhood, where you lived as a child, and when your family came over here. Let's start with that.
Well, I said my father came from Russia. I can't tell you when. My mother and her sisters, most of them came over with, I think their father came first, and he sent for them. Another sister, an older sister, Mrs. Levine, had already been here. So she took them into her home because they were young girls. It was Mrs. Glazier and my mother were the two youngest. And what else?
What did your grandfather do for a living? Do you know what brought him here?
I don't think he did anything. He's an old Jewish man with a long, I have a picture, with a tallis and a yarmulke.
What was his name?
Zelig Moshe.
Zelig Moshe?
Yeah.
And the last
Moshe
name?
or Moshe?
Moshe?
Sakowitz.
Sakowitz.
Yeah.
Tell me about your mother was
Sakowitz.
Sakowitz. And her father, tell me about her father, your grandfather.
I can't remember.
You don't remember him?
Yeah.
Tell me about your mother. Where did she live?
Patton Street.
Uh-huh.
That's where I was born.
And she lived on Patton Street?
Yeah, yeah.
What did your mother do how many children did she have, your mother?
Oh, kind of horror, 5.
5. Did your mother work also?
No.
Just your father?
Yep.
What did your father do for a living? His name was?
Nathan Frankel.
Frankel.
And he was what do you call him? A peddler.
A peddler.
Women's clothing. That's how we started out. I'm 94, 96 years ago. My father started out that way.
About 1912.
Huh?
About 1912.
Yeah, whenever. I was born in 15.
Okay. And he was peddling around Springfield?
He went around with a pack on his back, and then he opened a ladies' store in the north end of Springfield, which would be 96 years old today.
Where was that store and what was it called?
Frankel's.
And what street was it on?
Main Street.
In the north end. Do you remember the north end? Remember
Yes.
shopping?
Yeah.
Can you recall some of the stores where you used to buy your meat, your vegetables, your clothing?
Not me, because I was a little.
Where would your mother go?
Ferry Street.
Uh-huh. Do you remember some of the shops?
All the kosher, stores.
Uh-huh.
I can't.
Okay.
But on Main Street, there was my father's Frankel's. There was my uncle B. Levine and Sons, men's haberdashery. There was a youth center by the Leff family. Do you recall the Leff family? Okay. There was another ladies' dress shop ran by the Bergs, another Jewish family.
A lot of Jewish families had
Yes.
businesses on the main street.
Right, one after the other.
Did they live there too?
Did they live above their shops?
No, the shops were, one level.
And how long did your family live in the north end? Did they move around or did they just stay on that one street?
No, we were first on, what did I say?
Pap? Something like Pap?
No, wait a minute. The first street, I can't remember. And then we moved to Prospect Street. And then, let's see, we lived on Prospect Street and moved My parents built, from Prospect Street, built a house in Forest Park.
What year was that approximately? Would you say during the Depression or before the Depression?
Prospect Street, there were 4 girls, and then my mother became pregnant again, and that's when we moved to Forest Park.
Why did they move to Forest Park?
Well, because my father was making money.
What did Forest Park represent as compared to the North End?
A better standard of living, I would say.
Was it very crowded in the North End? What was it about the North End?
I don't know, but everybody was moving to the park.
How old were you when they moved? Can you remember approximately?
Well, my brother was born in Forest Park, and I am, wait a minute, 17. I have to figure out. I'm 15 years older than my brother. He was a baby of all the girls,
Right.
and then came my brother.
Right. And what was it like living in Forest Park as compared to the North End?
I don't know, I guess my parents thought the schooling was better.
Do you remember going to shul in the North End?
Absolutely, Beth Israel.
You went to Beth Israel. What do you remember about the shul or the rabbis or the people?
We had to sit upstairs, away from the men. And we moved to the park. My parents joined Kadima, which was the same thing. The women were separate from the men.
Can you remember any of the rabbis from these synagogues?
Oh, God.
It's a long time. Okay. How about some of your friendships? What people do you remember from your childhood? What friends did you have? Who comes to mind?
Not a lot. My mother kept us all together.
You didn't socialize much.
No,
How about in Hebrew school? Were you sent to a Hebrew school as a child?
I went to Cheder for a very short time.
Where was that?
That was on Dwight Street in Springfield with Rabbi Moses. Yeah.
Was he a?
And at that time, you know, they didn't worry about girls going to Cheder. It was mostly boys.
Were you in the same class with boys?
I can't remember.
Uh-huh. But you only went for a short time.
Yeah, I didn't like it. So,
And that was it.
No.
How about your siblings? How much Jewish education were they given?
Well, we as girls, 4 girls, were never bat mitzvah.
Mm-hmm.
But my brother was bar mitzvah.
Can you remember the bar mitzvah? That's a long time. Was that at Kadima also?
It must have been.
Right.
Was this on Kadima on Oakland?
Yes, with the steps. Yes.
What became Kesser?
Right.
Yeah.
Do you remember? Do you remember the building in the back of that synagogue? Did they have a sukkah?
They used to put one up for sukkahs, but I can't
Okay.
I can't remember that part. No. And what was I going to tell you? Oh, when my father started out as a peddler, one of his customers was Sarah Grodsky. And I wound up marrying her son
How did you meet Mr. Grodsky?
in school.
What school was that?
Well, he went to Tech, and I went to, let's see, he lived on Whittier Street, and I lived on Prospect Street, and I went to Cheston Street Junior High. And After that, yeah, he went to Tech and I went to Central up on State Street. And he used to carry my books down the hill. We were childhood sweethearts. And
How much later did you marry?
How old were you when you both got married?
23. We both were 23.
What happened to, let's go back, what happened to Mr. Frankel's clothing store? What became of it?
He kept it as long as he could work. And then he had to go into the, it was quite a while later, he wound up in the Jewish home. My mother and father, both.
Do we have their first names?
Yeah, what is your father's first name?
Nathan,
And your mother?
Jenny,
Jenny.
yeah.
What was her maiden name?
Whose? My mother?
Jenny's.
Sakowitz.
I see. Okay.
And Mrs. Friedman's mother was a Sakowitz, correct?
Their mother died, and my grandfather remarried
Yeah.
the man who looks like that picture.
Married,
Another lady in New York.
Sarah's mother died, is that what we're saying? No.
No.
I want to ask you about Sarah Eisenstadt's mother.
Hazel's.
Oh, Lena. Her name was, yeah.
She was a Sakowitz. no?
Yeah.
How is she related?
My mother's sister.
Okay, that's what we thought.
And Mrs. Levine was a sister. Mrs. Glazier was a sister.
Do you remember Lena at all?
Oh, I know what she looked like.
But you don't remember her as a personality.
No.
Uh-huh.
Well, she lost a very young son who was a brain. I'm sure Harry told you.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
He was in college at 16, and he came home and he didn't feel well, and she put him in a hot tub, and his appendix burst
Oh,
and killed him.
what a tragedy. Wow.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Did you and your cousin Sarah grow up together?
She was, until even when she died, I never knew how old she was, but she was older than I was. She married late in life, never had children.
But did you bump into each other a lot?
Yes, yes.
Were you?
And she was always very gracious, very.
But you weren't warm.
No,
cousins.
we were not. We never went together anyplace
Uh-huh.
because she was. And I don't know if you know anything about the Myers family.
Tell me about them. No.
Well, she was another sister, and she had 9 or 10 children.
What was her name?
Rebecca Myers.
Rebecca Sakowitz.
Myers, correct.
And where did she live? In the North End, too?
She lived in the North End on the main street with a house behind her husband's little menswear store.
Did they also move to Forest Park?
Never,
They stayed there.
never. They stayed.
Some families decided to stay in the
Yeah,
North End.
yeah. And they never made much, but their children all grew up to be very bright, prosperous children. And they made their own way, those kids.
Uh-huh. And what did Mr. Grodsky end up doing for a living?
My husband or my father-in-law?
Your husband.
They own Harry Grodsky and Company,
What was that?
mechanical contractors,
What kind of,
plumbing, heating, and air conditioning.
was that established by your father-in-law? How far back does that go?
Let's see, Harry, Leslie, Ronnie, grandchild. That would be 5 generations. We're into 4 right now, alive.
And they're still doing it?
Yep.
Still exists?
Yep.
So it may go back to the 1920s?
Oh, it could.
It really goes back far.
Yep, yep.
Did your father-in-law established it?
He certainly did.
And it did well?
What, Ken?
Oh, not.
She's in her 90s.
Yeah.
Her father-in-law, it's 100 years ago.
Yeah, so we're 2000.
Over.
Yeah, so it
So
could be
he could've-
1900.
He could have founded it in 1900.
Yeah?
Does
Yep.
that sound right?
Yes.
Possible.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Do you know where was the business? The first,
Oh God, a little hole in the wall someplace.
where? Where was this? whole-
Down the north end, everything was the north end.
Right.
All the Jews lived in the north end. And then they moved to Forest Park.
The business too?
No,
No.
Where's the business located now?
it's right off of 291.
Do you remember when you were going to school if you had many non-Jewish friends? Or were there a lot of non...
I had a lot of, on Prospect Street, non-Jewish neighbors. Yes, and I would say they were my friends. Yes. O'Neill, I can think of that name.
Yeah.
And
Did your husband fight in the war? Was he called up?
no, he had flat feet and they wouldn't take him.
Uh-huh.
Thank God.
And what they were doing was important work anyway.
Yeah,
I would say,
yeah,
the plumbing business.
yeah.
And now, did you have children, the two of you?
Did I have what?
Did you have children? Do you have
Yes.
Tell us about your children.
I had, my daughter came first,
Yeah.
and a son came second, and another son came third.
And the names are?
Their names?
Patricia, Michael, my beloved Michael, who I lost,
Oh.
and Ronnie, my youngest, who was a grandfather of 9.
Your youngest?
Kind of horror.
Kanahara. So your oldest lives in your daughter Patricia lives in St. Johnsburg.
Right. Ronnie lives 2 blocks from here.
Okay. And Ronnie works in the business.
He runs the business,
the business.
with his sons.
Very nice. Patricia, right? We're interested in knowing how each generation continues or doesn't continue in Jewish practice.
Yeah.
Did Patricia and her family, did her children continue Jewish tradition?
I would say no.
Can you give
One of my grandchildren, a grandson, another grandson, married non-Jewish girls. And if I made them to order, they couldn't be any better. They're wonderful girls, but they're not Jewish.
And they have children?
Yes,
How are they raising their children?
that's the problem.
They're not raising them Jewish.
They're not raising them anything right now. They go to temple on the high holidays, all of them, with their children. And
Patricia married a Jew?
yes.
What do they do up in St. Johnsbury?
Well, I guess it's not, but they're very involved. In St. Johnsbury, there's no such thing as Christian and Jew. My daughter has had 2 bar mitzvahs, 3 bar mitzvahs. And all the goyim pitch in, and they bake and they cook. I don't know how kosher it is, but they do. And they're all invited. And they invite, my daughter always invited all the priests to come to their bar mitzvahs and their bris, because she wanted them to see how the Jewish people lived and what our tradition is.
Interesting.
And they didn't have a moil. And we had a friend who had an airplane. And for every bris, he flew the moil up to but it had to be before Shabbos. And we had to get him back before Shabbos if it fell on a Saturday.
Tell me about your siblings. So what does Seymour Frankel do? What did he end up doing, and where does he live?
He took over my father's business, the ladies' clothes,
Yeah.
and he opened a shop here in Long Meadow.
And what was it called?
Beverly shop, very prosperous, but he had enough. He wanted to quit.
So the store closed? It's
Yes.
closed.
Yes.
Uh-huh. Does he have children?
He has 3. Yeah. Yeah.
Do they live in the area?
Just one lives away. Other 2 live right here in Long Meadow.
What do they do?
One is a lawyer. Oh, and the daughter is a lawyer. The other daughter is a lawyer. A very good lawyer.
Two children who are lawyers.
Yeah. Yep.
Are they married Jews?
One is married to a non-Jew.
It's the story.
Yeah.
Seymour, I know from way back.
Oh, do you?
Oh yeah, he recognized my last name.
Clothing.
Yeah, because of the clothing business.
Yeah, he's a wonderful volunteer in the community.
We should interview him too.
Yeah.
See, my mother and father lived in the home so long, and he works for the home day and night, raising money, everything. He's a tutor to underprivileged children who can't speak English. He's a good guy.
If you were going to give advice to your grandchildren or great-grandchildren, what would you want to tell them about what to think about, how to prepare for life? What kind of lessons would you want them to know?
I don't know, just to be good, honorable people, that's all. That's all I can say.
Did you find that the Jewish practice helped you in your life? Did you go to shul? Were you involved in Jewish practice? Was it useful?
Well, you know, we had a Yiddish club here. Very good turnout, and I loved it because I still speak Yiddish fluently.
Really?
Yes.
So would you continue now in the Yiddish, please?
Yeah, talk to us in Yiddish. Sprich mit uns in Yiddish.
Red zu dir.
Red zu uns in Yiddish.
Was willst du mir sagen?
Your Leben.
What'd you say?
Tell me something about your life in Yiddish.
Schön wie die Welt. That's all I can tell you.
No, but say more in Yiddish.
If you could give us a little more.
A paragraph.
I have to have my buddy here to talk to.
Is there a song?
Here, I'm your buddy.
No, you know, every time I see him, we speak Yiddish to each other.
Uh-huh.
Here.
Is there a song in Yiddish you remember from your childhood that you'd like to sing?
Oh my God, Affen Perperchuk.
Go ahead.
I can't sing.
Oh, well, say it.
I can't. Brandtafel and in Stub is heiß and the Kinder lach. What's the next? And the Kinder lach. Oh. Davnen Olive Base. No, we speak here.
I know Bernice Karolinsky speaks Yiddish. Do you know her?
Who?
Bernice Karolinsky?
Karolisi?
Karolinsky.
Did you belong to a shul when you were living in the park? When you were living with when you were married and had children, did you belong to?
Yeah, we belonged to, but not when I was married. My parents belonged to Kadima.
Don't touch them.
Yeah.
My parents belonged to Kadima.
What about you when you were married?
When I got married, my husband belonged to Bethel.
Uh-huh.
So I had to go with my husband's family. And eventually, my mother and father, who didn't live far from, because they wouldn't ride on the Jewish holidays, they joined Bethel.
What was that like for you, Bethel?
I've been there a good part, most of my life.
So
no.
did you like it?
Yes, yes.
More than Kadima?
Well, it wasn't. Bethel is, what do they call it?
Conservative.
Right. And the other was Orthodox.
That's what I'm asking.
What, did you prefer the conservative to the Orthodox?
Yes.
You liked it more?
Yeah.
How come?
Because we went with our children and we all sat together. We couldn't do that at Kadima. Our children and me.
How about the rabbis? Were they different?
Well, a lot of them at Bethel I really came to enjoy, really like. We have a woman rabbi now,
What's her name?
Amy Katz.
What was the rabbi before Amy Katz? He was there a long time.
Oh, yes, Schwartz.
Rabbi Schwartz.
Herbie.
Herb.
Did you like him?
Yes, I loved him.
And before that?
That's ancient history.
God, we had such an influx of rabbis, young ones, old ones. But and of course I knew Rabbi Price.
Who was Rabbi Price? Who
Oh,
was that?
way back, way back.
And
At Bethel?
Bethel. Yep,
do you remember when the building burned down?
certainly.
Were you there?
My daughter was scheduled to be married, and the building burnt. And we had to have it at B'nai Jacob. Everything fell apart.
How long did it take?
How long did it take before they rebuilt the building?
I can't answer. I don't know.
A couple of years.
So are you aware of what's happening now in the Springfield Jewish community? The Orthodox synagogues closing and moving to
Yes,
Jacob?
B'nai Jacob came to Bethel.
Right,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Well, it's like everything else falling apart now in the whole world.
How about Ronnie? Which her son?
How about, where does your son go to synagogue? Ronnie?
Bethel.
Bethel also?
Yeah, we're at Bethel. Yeah, and kind of horror when we go with our children and our little ones, we take up a lot of space.
What are the names of Ronnie's children?
Ronnie's children are Jeffrey, Scott, and Amy. And
The grandchildren?
Grandchildren? That's the grandchildren.
No, that's the children.
these are Ronnie's children.
Those are her grandchildren.
Yeah.
But Ronnie is a grandfather.
He has
Right.
9 grandchildren.
Do you know their names?
Come on.
Wow, that's asking a
That's
lot.
my whole life.
Yeah, so what are their names?
Amy has, let's see, Dylan, Jake, not Jacob, he is Jake. That's what the announcement said, just Jake. And who else? And the little one is Jordan. And who else? That's what, of Ronnie's 3. Those are 3. Oh, and then I have Samantha and Allie and Benjamin. Then I've got 3 more in that family. Who have I got? I don't know where they got these names. Tyler. Yeah, Tyler, or wait a minute. Oh, the little girl is Cameron. Cameron Sienna. His mother is Italian. Her mother is Italian. And who was the third one? Kind of horror. That's a lot of little babies.
Do you have some pictures of your parents around that we could take a picture of
I see a room full of pictures over here.
Would it be okay with you if we take some pictures of them?
Yeah, my husband's parents.
Wait, these, give me your finger. These are your parents?
The blue, yeah.
And these are your husband's parents?
Yeah.
And to the left is her husband.
And that's my husband.
And this is their wedding photo here. And she's going to photograph. Tell us who they are.
All right, this is St. Johnsbury. My daughter and her husband. This is my son.
Slowly.
Slowly.
Oh,
Your daughter, I see your daughter. And her husband.
and her husband.
Yeah.
That's me.
Uh-huh.
And that's my son, Ronnie, and his wife, Susan.
Yes.
These are St. Johnsbury, grandchild, St. Johnsbury, Vermont,
You have to.
grand,
Yeah.
Go ahead.
grandson. Now what? Where?
Keep going. Next level.
Here?
Yep.
That's a grandson here, Long Meadow. His wife and his child, Long Meadow. Let's see if I can find. This is a family in Long Meadow. My children,
And his children.
three, and his children. This is my son that passed on. His wife and his son and his daughter.
What do you mean, his wife?
The son who passed on, his wife, his widow.
This is his widow,
Yeah.
yes. And this is St. Johnsbury, St. Johnsbury. This is Swampscott and their baby. This is Long Meadow baby, Long Meadow, Long Meadow. It's a lot of babies.
Wonderful.
And some of them aren't born yet, weren't born yet.
And more that.
Oh,
How
yeah.
did you get everybody to be wearing dark colors?
You know something? The photographer was a woman, and she requested that everybody wear dark clothes. She said, I don't care for what anybody's wearing, but they photograph better. She said, I can, work on their faces and never mind the clothes.
Excellent.
So we all wore black
Where is this picture taken?
in her house. Now my daughter-in-law's.
And she lives around here?
She moved to Boston, yeah. Yep,
This was your 90th birthday?
yep,
That's wonderful.
And how old are you now?
94,
Kanahara.
thank God.
Okay. Thank you very much for
Yep,
allowing us. to
it was
interview you.
fun, what I could remember.
That was wonderful. Thank you.